equitable innovation, and shared prosperity. Professor Mutambara does not merely present AI as a technology. He presents it as a transformational force, capable of addressing deeply rooted challenges in education, healthcare, energy, agriculture, governance, and beyond. With clarity and conviction, he bridges the gap between complex technological systems and practical policy interventions, all anchored firmly in the unique context of the Global South. This work is significant because it affirms that AI is not the exclusive domain of the Global North. It insists that nations of the South can be leaders, not just followers, innovators, not just adopters. It champions the democratization and decolonization of AI while laying out actionable strategies for governments, industries, and institutions to build resilient, future-ready societies. So to Prof. Mutambara, we thank you for your vision, your continued vision, I should say, your continued scholarship, and your unwavering commitment to a just and inclusive technological future. Your work is a gift to policymakers, researchers, entrepreneurs, students, and ordinary citizens who believe in the promise of an empowered Global South. And to everybody here today and who's watching online, whether you're a student or an academic, a leader, or simply a curious mind, we hope that this launch helps to spark mindful dialogue and inspire bold thinking, as represented in this book, and strengthen our collective resolve to use AI not only as a tool of progress, but as a driver of dignity, equity, and opportunity. We really are celebrating a milestone tonight, and more importantly, it's an opportunity for us all to engage, question, and collaborate as we chart a smarter and more inclusive future together. Thank you so much, everybody, for being with us tonight. We really appreciate the time you've taken away out of your busy schedules to be here. And I'm sure you'll enjoy Prof. Mutambara's presentation. Thank you so much, Prof. We appreciate it. We look forward to what you have to say and welcome everybody officially.
Thank you very much for those brief, concise, precise remarks and to the point, which indicates the purpose of the day. I think at this point, I'll briefly introduce our main actor, Professor Mutambara. Known him for many in different continents, in America, in Zimbabwe, in South Africa, and all over. He is an electrical engineer by excellence, and went through the University of Zimbabwe and through Rose Scholarship to Oxford University, and he has been really active in various fora, whether it's at MIT, with NASA, with different organizations. I think all I can say is the internet is there for you. I know some of you are already Googling and knowing a lot about him. I think he has been an engineer, a politician, a government a practitioner, not really bureaucrat, but a technocrat. And he's a professor here at the University of Johannesburg as a director of the Institute for Future of Knowledge. I always want to say future technology because that's his main domain, active in artificial intelligence and 4IR and other activities. I think it would be amiss if I don't mention that he has sat in cabinet for 5 years, and that's a rare occurrence. If I ask us to raise hands here and say we have sat in cabinet as a member, not as a visitor of cabinet, he might be the only one, maybe a few here. So that's an achievement that most people take lightly. It remains, for us in Zimbabwe, he remains Deputy Prime Minister of Zimbabwe. It's a title that doesn't go away, unfortunately, or fortunately, because of being sworn to the country's innermost. So I think I could say more, but I would keep you until midnight. So to save you from that, I think I will ask him just to come and do his act here. Thank you.
Thank you for that propaganda. Propaganda spreading over my name. Thank you very much for coming. We are launching this book. This book is about using AI as a driver of inclusive development and shared prosperity for the global South. That's what we are trying to deal with in this book. This is the book we're talking about. Why are we writing this book? Why this book? Why do we care? Why do we care about AI in the global South? There's so much that is being said about AI in the West, AI in the US. Everyone is talking about AI, but no one is focusing on how we can use AI to solve problems that we have in Africa, to solve problems that we have in the global South. How can we use AI to make our lives better? How can we use AI to improve the quality of life of our people in Africa, our people in the global South? We can't wait for Silicon Valley. We must have urgency. That's why we're writing this book. What is the global South? You might ask. It refers to a socio-economic concept rather than a precise geographical location. The global South is also pejoratively referred to as the developing world. We don't accept that because we are making a lot of assumptions about development. But we accept that people call the global South developing world, which is pejorative. A better phrase is that the global South consists of emerging and least industrialized countries in Africa, Latin America, the Caribbean, Asia, excluding Israel, Japan, and South Korea, and Oceania, excluding Australia and New Zealand. It's about history. It's about the nature of those economies, not so much geography. Africa, Latin America, the Caribbean, and Asia. Why do we care? There are 8 billion people in the world. 6.6 billion are in the global South. And 1.4 billion are in the global North. So the global South is the global majority. So if you can address the problems of the global South, you'd have addressed the problems of the majority of the people in the world. That's why we care. The global South is the global majority. They have a shared history, they have similar features. They are characterized by debilitating economic, social, and political challenges, environmental challenges, high levels of poverty, inequality, unemployment, and limited access to education and technology. What can we do using AI to address the challenges of the global majority? That's the mandate. That's our aspiration in terms of this book. The global South, the global majority is 6.6 billion people. And also Africa, we are 1.4 billion people. But if we work with our diaspora, we have what is called global Africa, 2.2 billion people. We must not underestimate the power of Africa and its diaspora. The global South, 6.6 billion people, global Africa, 2.2. And the global North that is dominating the world, the global North that is running the world is only 1.4. That's why we are saying we must use AI to solve the problems of the global South, the global majority, the global South, in particular, global Africa, and in particular, Africa, since we're in the continent. That's the representation of the numbers. We are discussing matters of the global majority. Why do we care? Look at those numbers about GDP per capita income. These are the top countries in terms of per capita income in the world. None of these countries are in the global south. The countries in the global north are dominating in terms of better quality of life, as defined by GDP per capita. Why don't we address this deficit in terms of the global south? Look at us. The Gini coefficient is another measure of disparities between the haves and the have-nots. 0% means you're a fairly equal society. 100% means one person owns everything. Look at our numbers. 67%. South Africa is the most unequal society in the world. South Africa, with its fairly reasonable economy, fair reasonable industrialization, it is the worst in the world in terms of inequality. How do we fix the disparities in the global south? Look at those numbers. We have the worst GDP per capita, we have the worst Gini coefficient as the global south. We are saying, how can we use artificial intelligence to improve our numbers in terms of equality, in terms of Gini coefficient? Starting with this country called South Africa, it is the worst in the world in terms of inequality. Look at that, 67% or 0.67 in terms of GDP, in terms of Gini coefficient. Now, the global south is heterogeneous. The countries are at different stages of development. China versus Malawi, Malaysia versus Ghana. Why are we studying them together? Singapore, South Korea. Why are we studying these countries that are different? We study them together because we can learn from each other. China was able to remove 800 million people out of poverty in 40 years. 800 million people out of poverty in 40 years. What can we learn from China? In 1960, the GDP of South Korea, Singapore, and Ghana were comparable, and Rhodesia were comparable. Right now, South Korea is over there. Singapore is over there. Zimbabwe is in the dustbin. Ghana is in trouble. What happened? So when we study these countries together, we'll be able to pick up lessons from Singapore to Ghana, lessons from South Korea to Zimbabwe. In the same vein, these countries, Singapore, Malaysia, and South Korea, are using AI effectively. Why can't we learn from those countries with a similar history to us, with a similar set of economic circumstances in the past? That's why we are saying, let us study AI for the global south as a group, because there's an opportunity to learn from each other. The heterogeneity that is existing in the global south, we acknowledge, but we're saying it's an opportunity to learn from each other. We are in Africa, we are in South Africa. We are in particular concerned about Africa as part of the global south. 1.4 billion people, collective GDP, $3.1 trillion. What can we do as Africa to use AI? We are part of the global south, but we also want to talk about ourselves because we are special. We are Africans. And by the way, don't just think about Africa, think about the global Africa, which is 2.2 billion people, collective GDP, $5 trillion. Do you know, if we were working, Chairman, if we were working together as Africans, we'll be able to do more as 1.4 billion people, as a group with a collective GDP of $3.1 trillion. but we don't do that. We're balkanized. We're fragmented. If we're to leverage these numbers, we'll be able to extract better deals for ourselves. Africa is underrepresented. Africa is misrepresented. Look at these numbers. How can 7,400 kilometers be smaller than 5,900? This is the map that they taught you in your foolish schools, uneducated schools, uneducated professors. How do you tell me that 7,400 kilometers is smaller than 5,900? Professor Mo, what's wrong with you? You don't want to give us our credit that we are very big, with a massive presence. We are trying to see our vast mass in terms of land mass, our resource base. The global north, the colonizers, created this map because they don't want you to know that you're actually bigger than you are. All these countries can fit into Africa. Watch that. The US can fit into Africa. China into Africa. India, we are the mother of the world. But the colonizer from the global north does not want you to know that. Look at those countries. We can fit them using our land mass. Look at our natural resource base. Any mineral you can think about, we have. Why can't we work together and use technology to do beneficiation, to drive and make things happen? I want you to understand that we are underutilizing our resources. We can do more, but on top of that, let us use technology. Okay? Artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence. What is it? Professor Mboa. When we say artificial intelligence, we're talking about the development and deployment of computer systems or machines that can perform tasks requiring human-like intelligence, requiring learning, requiring problem solving, requiring decision making. If you can have those capabilities in a computer system, you have an AI. If you can have those capabilities in a machine, in an AI, in a computer system, you have an AI system. By definition. I want us to understand this before we apply it. The deployment and development of computer systems or machines that can perform tasks requiring human-like intelligence, such as learning, such as problem solving, such as decision making. That's all. That's all. How can we use this to solve our problems as Africans? How can we use this to improve the quality of life of our people? The taxonomy of AI. The most basic type of AI is called single task AI. Just one go, and it goes and does it. The next stage is what's called agentic AI. It's getting complicated now. Autonomous, making decisions, pursuing goals without human input, without human control. Agentic AI is getting more interesting, more complicated. Generative AI is about creating new knowledge, new pictures, new videos, new wisdom, new data. And you are familiar with ChatGPT, Gemini, Grok 3, and DeepSeek R1. Those are examples of generative AI. That last one, DeepSeek R1, is a message to the global south that you can do it. Forget Silicon Valley. DeepSeek R1 required less energy, required less money, and they did it the Chinese. So the Chinese are saying to us in Africa, you can build AI systems just like Silicon Valley. You don't need as much money as those guys deployed, and also require less energy. Artificial general intelligence, we're now saying, what can we do to have multiple capabilities in the same machine? Just like you. You can walk, you can talk, you can play soccer, you can read, you have multiple intelligences in yourself. How can we have a machine that does several complex functions That's what we call artificial general intelligence. Not yet done, work in progress. But one day we'll get there. It gets scary. Superintelligence. What do we mean by superintelligence? We're talking about Pastor Mtondoro. We're talking about having a machine, having a computer system that is smarter than the smartest human being, smarter than Elon Musk, smarter than Einstein, smarter than Newton in the machine. Again, not yet done, but work in progress. You can say, why are we doing that? We're doing that because whoever achieves superintelligence will have what is called asymmetric advantage over their competitors. If the Chinese today achieve superintelligence, the gap between them in America will be like this. Right now, they're at the same level because they got nuclear weapons and they're balancing it out. When the Chinese achieve superintelligence, they'll be here, asymmetric advantage. If the Americans get superintelligence, and by the way, Professor Moore, once we manage to create one super intelligent agent, getting 1 million is trivial. You create one, you get 1 billion. Now, how can you as a little human being control 1 billion super intelligent agents? How can, I know you have a cat at home, you control it because you're smarter than the cat, right? I know you have a dog, a donkey, and a mouse and a goat, and you control them because you are smarter than them. Now, if the machine is smarter than you, who's going to control who? We are not there yet. But when we get there, the pastor must tell us what it means. Super intelligence. I want us to have a rudimentary understanding of the technology. Machine learning is a part of AI. Deep learning is a part of machine learning. So that you can speak intelligently. Don't say, I'm studying AI and machine learning. It means you are ignorant. It's like saying, I'm going to South Africa and Joburg. No, you can't say that. I'm going to South Africa, in particular, Joburg, because Joburg is in South Africa. So you can say, I'm studying artificial intelligence, in particular, machine learning. Not this nonsense of saying, I'm studying machine learning and deep learning. Deep learning is a part of machine learning. I want us to wise up to the language, just the language. Even if you're studying philosophy, get this. And by the way, these things are affecting every sector. Again, neural networks are part of machine learning. So deep learning is a part of neural network. Please, let us just have this understanding so that we can speak intelligently. This is the reason why it is very hard to get AGI. These are the 5 reasons why it is very hard right now. Limited understanding of the human brain. We don't understand the brain well. Ethical and philosophical considerations. Technical and environmental hurdles. Current AI specialization limitations. Structural and functional. It's a very difficult subject to get AGI. These are the reasons why it is difficult. I wanted us to understand that. And it's all covered and talked about in the book. AI does not operate in a vacuum. There are other technologies, mobile telephony, 5G. The Chinese are talking about 10G, digital transformation, big data. We must understand AI is part of an ecosystem of transformative technologies. Battery energy storage systems. Right now, we charge our phones every night. Can you imagine if we could get a battery that lasts 30 days? So you charge once a month. And I'm sure we can form a big company that Kuseni can chair, right? So battery energy storage systems are a major technology. FinTech, a major driver. Smart and high-tech mining, smart logistics. I want us to understand that AI is not in a vacuum. There are other things like nanotechnology, like edge AI, cloud AI, nanotechnology. All those things come together. The one I want to emphasize is quantum computing. Now, this one, we must actually be proactive about it because it's going to change the way we do computing. Whatever takes you a year, if you are decoding or try to crack a code, it takes you a year to crack it, it will now take you 2 minutes. 10,000 times faster. The language has to change. I know you talk about megabytes, gigabytes, old language. We talk about qubits. No more gigabytes and megabytes. We are talking about a revolution here. And I want us to be proactive. Again, not yet achieved. Quantum computing is work in progress. But when you achieve it, it will change completely your phone, your TV, your computer. Everything that depends on computing is going to change. We are saying there's another revolution in the making. Artificial intelligence plus quantum computing will bring another revolution. Now, AGI and superintelligence will be achieved sooner than we think when we get quantum computing. As Africans, let us not play catch up. Let us make sure that when it does come, we are with the program. We are proactive. The same applies to Edge AI. Edge AI is as opposed to cloud AI. Most of the AI you're using, ChatGPT, Meta AI, this stuff has been processed in Silicon Valley. It's called cloud AI. Edge AI is where the compute power, the AI infrastructure is close to the application. We want that in the global south. We want that in South Africa. I'm an engineer, so I want to share a few illustrations of what we can do with AI. And we're demonstrating that you are not the standard, Madam Human Being. We're trying to be better than you, Mr. Human Being. Native autonomy without
Ndikuteerera nengeri nanzani Mutambara autala zve AI.
So a lot of AI, this could not be done without AI. If we can do this in the year 2025, can you imagine what we can do in 10 years' time? By the way, I know you've watched a lot of fiction, a lot of science fiction. This is
a lot of people in the agriculture industry, growers, ranchers, academics, to bring about better, faster, and healthier workflows and yields, not to mention costs.
Little is known about the event, except that Israel used the swarm attack to strike dozens of targets, together with other missiles and munitions. Most media outlets reported this as an attack with multiple drones at once, but military experts believe that this was a true drone swarm attack, meaning that the drones communicated and collaborated in making collective decisions.
Just like this silver flare, coming back to the once again, we are standing by for attempting to catch the booster at the tower. This would be the second tower catch.
Ready for seeing 13 engines.
Booster now hovering as it aligns with the tower for catch.
Booster coming in.
Down
ready
to,
for that boom. Hey.
down to 3 engines.
See you.
So those are the applications. Why do we care? The economics of AI. It is predicted that generative AI alone will contribute $4 trillion to global GDP. AI as a field will contribute $11 trillion to global GDP. Global GDP is about $110 trillion. This is why everyone's talking about AI. It's about money. $4 trillion just from generative AI alone this coming year. And then $11 trillion coming from the broader field of AI. Just to make sure that you understand why this is important, look at the numbers. Global GDP is 1.9. America's GDP is 28. China, 18. Germany, 4.6. Japan, 4. So just generative AI alone is equivalent to the Japanese economy. Just one little part of AI. How can we make sure the global south has a piece of the pie? Why? Because our own collective GDP is 3.1. So we are smaller than generative AI. The whole continent is smaller than one type of AI. The economics of AI. Look at the numbers. So Japan and generative AI are equivalent. And we are smaller than that as a continent. Our own countries, South Africa, is actually much smaller. 328 billion chicken change. Nigeria, chicken change. I know South Africa thinks they're big. You are not big. You're smaller than generative AI. So why don't you work together, maybe as a collective continent? We can talk about 3.1. Otherwise, this is chicken change. Zimbabwe, 26. What is that? Is that an economy? Botswana. We must work together. We must work together. The job is of jobs. Yes, AI is going to destroy jobs. You must accept that. That's our number one submission, job displacement. But the good news is job modification. The job won't die, it will be modified. The good news is new jobs that didn't exist before. However, for us to benefit, we must reskill the job losers. We must reskill and prepare for the modified jobs. We must create new skills, new capabilities, and new competencies to take advantage of the new jobs. If we do this, and also continuous learning and reskilling, if we do this, AI will mean more jobs. If we don't, AI will mean less jobs. So there's an equation, Professor Boer, that we must satisfy. The job equation. New jobs plus modified jobs must be much more bigger than the destroyed jobs. If you don't satisfy that equation, there will be unemployment in South Africa because of AI. There will be unemployment in the global south because of AI. We must work together to make sure this equation is correct and satisfied. New jobs plus modified jobs are much more than destroyed jobs. That's your challenge, Pastor Mtondoro. And Kuseni, the companies, the government, civic society must work together to make sure that equation is correct. If we don't get that equation correct, AI is going to mean poverty for us. That's why we need also to play in the space of creating AI. And by the way, I see there's some students here. AI has meant something new. Your certificate doesn't matter. Don't show me your little certificate. I've got a BA from UJ. I've got a BSc from Wits. I've got an MBA from Harvard. I'm not interested. Show me what you can do. That's the new slogan. Show me what you can do. What are your skills? What are your capabilities? What are your competencies? Show me what you can do. Your little degree. I know you must get your degree, but make sure as you get your little degree, you have some skills, you have some competencies, you have some capabilities. Show me what you can do. Problem-solving skills, critical thinking, financial literacy, digital skills, AI skills. That's what we're looking for in the AI revolution. Don't show me your certificate. As Africa, as the global south, we must do three things. Three things, please. Number one, we must embrace AI. We must use AI to solve our problems, to improve the quality of life of our people. It doesn't matter where the AI system is coming from, let us use it. That's our first task. Second task, let us also be producers of AI systems. Creating AI systems. If we don't do that, we won't benefit from the economics. But more importantly, in addition to using AI and developing AI, we must also build the hardware that drives AI. That ChatGPT you are using, that Meta AI using is being driven by hardware sitting in Silicon Valley. We must also build the hardware that drives AI. The GPUs, the NPUs, if we're going to benefit from the economics of AI. What's called the semiconductor industry. The chips that power AI. Let me demonstrate this so you understand why this is important for the African in the global south. A company called NVIDIA. It doesn't do AI systems. It doesn't use AI, it just builds the chips. the
Because
hardware that power AI. On
No,
the
no, but
19th
now
of June
computer,
2024,
when they get my cartoon.
NVIDIA's market capitalization was $3.34 trillion. A company that just built hardware for AI, $3.34 trillion. Ahead of Microsoft, ahead of Apple. It was the biggest company in the world. If we are going to benefit from the economics of AI, we must also participate in that hardware. $3.34 trillion for one little company that does just the hardware. Just to show you how powerful that is, it is bigger than France. It is bigger than Russia. It is bigger than Canada. It is bigger than Brazil. Of course, bigger than you and me. By the way, we're being generous with 3.1. It might be lower. The entire continent of Africa is smaller than a hardware company. Please, if the African is going to benefit from the AI revolution, we must also participate in the building of the hardware that drives AI. If we don't, we won't benefit from the economy. $3.34 trillion.
Hello?
Yes, there are efforts to do good work. South Africa, Kenya, they're building some AI systems. Cassava, owned by Liquid Technologies, they're partnering with NVIDIA to bring GPUs in South Africa and the rest of Africa. But we need more than that. We need it at country level. Why can't we leverage our critical minerals in South Africa, in the DRC, and partner with Taiwan and the US to produce the hardware? We can't do it as South Africa. We have to do it as SADC, do it as the continent. AI requires a lot of energy. You know, these AI companies are setting up their own nuclear power plants. Some companies have 200 PhDs working for them. The LLMs, large language models, cost $200 million, a lot of money. China is producing 1.4 million engineers a year. 1.4 million engineers a year. America, 100,000 engineers a year. So the Chinese are moving much faster. We worry about data colonialism. That data you're putting on Facebook and Twitter, who owns it? Microsoft, with all these European and Western products, they're getting your data, they're monetizing it without giving you nothing. They're weaponizing that data against you. Data colonialism, digital imperialism. So in the global south, we must talk about decolonizing AI. We must talk about decoloniality in the AI revolution. We must talk about democratization of AI. There's a difference between decolonization and decoloniality. Decoloniality addresses the long-term impacts of colonialism in knowledge, culture, and thought. It seeks to challenge and deconstruct colonial legacies embedded in societal norms and academic discourse. So we of the global south want decoloniality in AI. That's what we're talking about. That's what this book is about. We are summarizing the book because we are saying we want a piece of the pie is emerging and listed industrial countries. What are our problems? How can you use AI to solve our problems? How can you make ourselves ready? Don't assume that the country is ready. How can you make our countries ready? How can we understand these technologies? We explain these ideas in the book. We explain what AI is, AlphaFold in biology, ChatGPT, so that we can understand these concepts. We also look at the other technologies, quantum computing, battery energy storage system, 3D printing. That's the book we are launching today, covering all these ideas I've spoken about, and we're summarizing the input. We look at 11 sectors in this book: mobile telephony, infrastructure, manufacturing, mining, agriculture, healthcare, How can we use AI in those fields in Africa? We have 10 case studies, 5 on the continent, 5 outside Africa. South Africa, Kenya, Rwanda, Mauritius, and Zimbabwe, of course. We have to study that one. And then outside Africa, we have India, China, Singapore, Malaysia, and UAE. UAE has done very well. They were the first one to have a minister of AI in the world, minister of AI. So the book has 10 case studies to learn from and understand. Okay? And then we also talk about how you come up with an AI vision, the AI strategy, AI governance, policy, and also implementation. And we talk about how we should participate in the semiconductor industry. The book is for policymakers, business leaders, graduate students, academics, researchers, and strategic thinkers and world leaders who are concerned about understanding the technology and leveraging the technology in pursuit of inclusive development, economic transformation, and shared prosperity. That's the book there. The African must write books. You're not writing. You're not even reading. And you universities, this thing about journals, yes, books also. South Africa is very, retrogressive, this country. They don't motivate you to write books. Write journals. Yes to journals, but yes to books too. Tell them at UP, tell them at UJ, Professor Mutambara is declared. Let's move away from the foolish policy
All right.
of encouraging journals against books. Africans must write books. Those are the books written. So what we're going to do is book number 7. Ekusen, how many have you done? Wake up, my friend from Oxford. And another one, Oxford. I've got my Oxford Mafia here. Anyway, this is book number 7 that we're launching today. Are we done? No. We got more books coming. This is the next one. Deploying AI to achieve the UN Sustainable Development Goals. That will come sometime in August, September there. The African must be a creator of knowledge, not just a consumer of knowledge. Are we together, Professor? Let's write. And as we conclude, all we are saying, ladies and gentlemen, comrades and friends, the global South must have agency. We must make technology work for us. Pastor, we must make AI work for us. Don't work for Silicon Valley. We must have agency in pursuit of inclusive development and shared prosperity. Indeed, the struggle continues. A luta continua. I thank you very much.
I'm getting old. I need the specs. Well, that's Professor Mutambara, the humanist, Pan-Africanist, the technocrat, professor, the politician. I think as I listened, I got excited, scared, and inspired. I don't know what that mixture brings in terms of artificial intelligence, but I think I leave the discussion up to you later on. There was a famous vice chancellor of the University of Johannesburg called Professor Aaron Rensburg, who nurtured us and did so very beautifully. One of his ideas was that you always move on, and every day you start at ground zero with a blank sheet in terms of finding solutions. And I think this is one of the approaches that looks at that. I pass a small riddle. That is that you cannot push a good man down. And if you manage to do so, it's not forever. So I think you can see that Professor Mutambara presents a global picture of skills that can benefit society in consulting, in teaching, in research, education, and in all kinds of spheres, different spheres. I just want to pick that he mentioned the value of land. I always give this example that when you look at land, it is the only value that exists. The rest, the US dollars are green papers. The rand, I don't know what it is, but the Zimbabwean dollar is something. I just ask the question normally, if you were to sell Saudi Arabia in 1800 after Christ, how much would you sell the country for or buy the country for? And look at Saudi Arabia today in terms of the trillions of resources that they have. You can look at Israel, which is half desert, how it can feed the world and itself and can lead in technology and so forth. So I think he mentioned the issue of land area. We have a lot of land area in Africa, and let's keep that and possess that and make good use of that. I know, of course, there's a Pan-Africanist approach that he has of the United States of Africa, but I think we need some kind of unity that can deliver. As he mentioned, the tussle between America and China, I just thought about the persecution of academia and control of research in the United States at the moment. I'm not sure whether the researchers and innovators there will be running, carrying backpacks, swimming with their hands tied and their feet tied. I don't know how it will fare in terms of their competitiveness in competing against China. So all I can say is that as a final remark, I think he focused on definition. That's one thing I picked of artificial intelligence and the often misused. I've seen a lot of useless PhDs, not only in South Africa, but in many different countries where there is a mixture and complete ignorance, lack of knowledge of 4IR of artificial intelligence. And somebody does the SPSS and all those funny scientific analysis and get their PhD and deliver completely zero to innovation, zero to society, zero to communities. So I think it's my final remark that excited me, and I wanted to say that, and I've used my chair position to do that. Anyway, we'll move on to some response and brief remarks. We have Mr. Kuseni Lamini, who is the board chairperson of Alexander Forbes Group Holdings, board chairperson of Aspen Pharmacare Holdings, former board chairperson of Massmart Holdings, former chief executive officer of Old Mutual South Africa and Emerging Markets, and former chairperson of the Council of the University of Pretoria. I don't need to say anything, I just summarized, but I think you can understand his stature. So we look forward to your kind response and presentation. Thank you.
Thanks, Prof. Bowen. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's an immense honor and privilege to be here. It's always very difficult to speak after Arthur, whom I've known for many years, from my student days at Oxford, when I arrived as a Rhodes Scholar. He was a Rhodes Scholar in residence himself. And he is one of those people that defy conventions. They always say, you cannot change Oxford, but Oxford can change you. But Oxford failed to change Arthur, from what I've seen here today. he really definitely did change Oxford, Professor. I will concur with you without any slight hesitation in that regard. I remember the debates at the Oxford Union. I remember St. Anthony's College, where the Africa Society used to meet. Every major debate that took place at the time, Arthur was not just at the center of it, but was at the forefront of it. And remember, this is someone who was doing a PhD in robotics, not in theology, not in any other subjects. And he managed to capture the room and shape the discourse and shape the narrative. And I'm very pleased that he continues to do that. I'm very humbled that I've been part of his journey of launching all these books, but feel appropriately guilty that I'm that African that's still yet to write a book. And I fully concur with him that Africans have to be producers of knowledge, not just consumers of knowledge. So I know we all came here today with the objective of launching Arthur's book. I'd like to summon you all not to use this as a book launch. Let's use this as a moment to build a movement around celebrating excellence. Arthur is an extraordinary epitome of excellence. He walks it, he talks it, he lives it, and he breathes it. And if we can all do that, especially the young intellectuals that I see in this room, we can be able to transform the reputation and perception of Africa within a generation. Way back in the 50s and 60s, as Arthur shared with us here, if you're Japanese arriving at JFK or at London Heathrow, you're seen as an immigrant who is running away from poverty. If you're coming from China, you're not seen as an investor or as a competitor, but you're seen as somebody to be avoided. Today, if you're African, you land at Heathrow and the JFK airport and you lead in other major capitals in the world. You're not still viewed in a positive light. Why? Simply because we have not managed to assert ourselves in the mainstream spheres of science, technology, medicine, and knowledge production. What Arthur is challenging us to do through his example, I like him. I know we've got a priest here, a reverend in the room. The priests are notorious of saying, do as I say, not as I do. But we've got Arthur here as a priest, if we're to use that analogy. He's not saying do as I say, he's saying do as I've done. Here's the seventh book that we're launching today, and there's one that is announced that's coming, and we need to be able to join Arthur in this global movement to reshape global narrative, to reshape the knowledge balance of power and forces globally. We need to be able to make sure that when people land at Heathrow or JFK, when they go to the main bookshops, they'll see books written by Africans, and they'll be queuing to want to buy and read those books, as indeed this excellent work that Arthur has produced today is super inspiring. I'd like to say three things in the first part of my presentation today, which I suggest we should do. Firstly, is really acknowledge the legacy of Arthur, because this does not just come automatically. It's really years of hard work, dedication, and commitment to excellence. So we have to celebrate his legacy. And then secondly, we also need to really embrace excellence as Africans, as something that's part and parcel of who we are, and be intentional about it, be deliberate about it, be consistent in pursuing excellence, and in making sure that we demonstrate it in the space of artificial intelligence, in the technological races of our world, in the knowledge economy, in the healthcare business, in the financial services sector, in retail, in every sphere. I don't care what you choose to do. Pick anything that you like, but please just be the best in what you do. Don't just be satisfied of being the best UJ student or the best UJ professor. Be the best student in South Africa. Be the best student in Africa. Be the best student in the world. And let's make sure that we demonstrate that we can do it. And from the example of Professor Mutambara, it can be done. It is doable. And we should be able to emulate what he has done. And then thirdly, the issue of knowledge again, it's been touched on here. We are net consumers of knowledge. Let's pivot to be net producers of knowledge. Let's produce more knowledge than we consume. But before you can produce knowledge, you have to consume knowledge. That's given. And Arthur challenged us here, very explicitly said, we are not writers. And he also said, we are also not readers. Let's be a nation of writers. Let's be a nation of readers. Let's be consumers of knowledge, yes, but as a foundation to produce knowledge. And that is something that I believe will be able to change all those metrics that we have seen. To see AI's net contribution to global GDP at $4.1 trillion and look at Africa's GDP at $3.1 trillion. It's a shame. It's really something that should make us feel dissatisfied and feel upset that we are not angry about that. We should be angry about that. And then going to the second part of my input, I really would like to thank Arthur for giving us this fantastic analytical framework that makes us to make sense of the world in which we live. I mean, 3 things that I got from scanning his book, that we currently live in the midst of a global technological war. And firstly, and that war is being driven by the global technological superpowers. Largely in the forefront or in the center of that war, it's Beijing and Washington, D.C. They are conducting the orchestra of that war. And then the question is, who is going to win that war? And what is our position as Africans? In the history of all hitherto industrial revolutions, Africa has been notorious of just being a spectator. And I think tonight, we're being challenged to be drivers of technological revolutions by the work that Arthur has done. We're being challenged to be drivers of the AI race, the AI revolution that's underway. But in order for us to be able to do that successfully and effectively, and I strongly believe that we can and must do that, we need to arm ourselves with the arsenal of knowledge that's required to make us succeed in those technological wars. And then the second point that Arthur makes very clear in his work is that there are going to be winners and losers in this war. And we have to choose, and that we don't have an option as a continent, whether we look at it from a Pan-African point of view, which we must, with 1.4 billion people in Africa, whether we look at it from the global Africa perspective, which is the 2.2 billion population that we are, or we look at it from a global South perspective, which is the majority of the world's population, 6.6 billion people, we are certainly going to be defeated by the minority. And do we want to accept that? You know, as a continent or as a community of global Africa of 2.2 billion people, you look at the EU population, it's about 450 million people. The US population is about 300 million people. For how long are Africans going to accept being dominated and led and ruled by the minority? And this is the time now, through knowledge, for us to step up to the plate and assert ourselves and take positions of leadership, as Arthur has done, as Arthur is summoning us to do, and we can be able to do that. And furthermore, apart from the fact that there will be winners and losers, we really need to be afraid and be very, very afraid that if we do nothing, yes, artificial intelligence can be a driver for inclusive growth and shared prosperity, but that's not ordained from the skies. It's about the choices that you make and the actions that you take in order to be able to make sure that you position ourselves as drivers and as winners in these technological wars of our time. And then the third point that's linked to that is really the importance of making sure that we realize that we have to work together as Africans, as the global Africa community, the diaspora, that is the 1.4 plus 800 million, that's 2.2 billion, but as the global South. And if we are not joined up, if we are not coordinated, we don't collaborate, we are going to be eaten for lunch by the minority in the world. In Steve Biko used to say, black men, you're on your own. I'd like to say African men or women, you're on your own. You have to step up. And we've seen now what is happening in the current geopolitical and geo-economic backlash of our time, that it's every country for itself, every leader for his or her own people. So we need to be able to really leverage collaboration. You look at the global Jewish diaspora working together in a joined up collaborative way. The global Indian diaspora working together in a joined up collective way where there's partnerships. You look at Wall Street today, you've got more CEOs that are actually not Caucasians. Most of them come from India, come from the broader Indian diaspora. And you've got many Jewish people in senior position globally, and they've done that through the leveraging of knowledge. It's just education. It's hard work, smart work. And we need to do that. We've got the rest. We've got the fertile land. We've got the minerals, the critical minerals. There's another race, Professor, the critical minerals race taking place. We are well positioned on that because God was very kind to make sure that all the mineral reserves are in Africa, and everyone that wants them must come to this part of the world, at least the majority of them. But we have to assert ourselves in the other spheres. And then lastly, looking at this from a private sector perspective, as somebody who's involved in a number of companies, I think this is God sent for us, Arthur. These are issues we grapple with in boardrooms, in board discussions, in business strategies. I think there's 11 sectoral studies, case studies that are real, that we have covered in this book, really gives us the right reference point to have more informed strategic conversations. 3 things from a business point of view that I think Arthur is adding to us, just really the need for us to drive innovation like never before, invest aggressively in the innovation capabilities and capacities of our companies. And thirdly, really the need to make sure that we use AI as a leverage or as an anchor for global competitiveness. That is something that is so key. And companies today are going to be as good as their ability to win in the technological wars of our times. In the past 6 months, I've been to Singapore and China, and what you see there it's really amazing at the pace at which China and Singapore and the other Asian countries are moving, surpassing the United States and Europe in many ways. And one conference I attended, I heard that China now has surpassed the US in terms of number of patents registered, simply because they're really aggressive in investing in research and development and being ahead of the curve. And that's something that's important. And then lastly, from a business point of view, you can't really be an efficient player if you are not embracing AI. And this is something that we constantly ask ourselves, are we not missing certain opportunities by not deploying the right resources? Are we giving our executives the right amount of support in terms of them leading the charge, in terms of AI technology and other areas where they should be able to win? In the final analysis, I think a country or a continent is as good as its companies, and a company or a continent is as good as its people. So if we invest in our people, invest in our technological capabilities, we can be able to make sure that artificial intelligence, Professor Mboa, is indeed a driver for inclusive growth and shared prosperity. And thank you very much to Arthur for his great work that he has done. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I see a lot of excitement from business, and that's good. Our next response is from Ms. Gloria Kiondo, who is Deputy Resident Representative, UNDP, and supporting the government of South Africa to pursue sustainable development goals. A medical doctor by profession, and a practitioner in development in the Global South. We have it? Oh, okay. Thank you, Madam. Can you... briefly, about 3 to 5 minutes, eh?
Yes. I wouldn't even use 3 minutes.
Okay.
Probably less. Thank you. Presentation. Is it evening already? Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor to stand here and participate in this launch. I'm speaking on behalf of Maxwell Gomera, who's the UNDP resident representative, but he couldn't make it today, unfortunately. We are at UNDP proud to be part of this journey and this event, particularly because of, I would say, two things in the subject: inclusion and shared prosperity. Because at the UN, these are values that we uphold, and these are the values that guide and govern the work that we do in pursuing the sustainable development, including in the work we're doing here in South Africa. Now, during the presentation, the professor touched upon a few points that resonate with our work, and I wanted to touch upon them as well in my 3 minutes. And when I reach 3 minutes, please ring a bell. One of them is the importance of making the choice. AI investment is costly, and it requires policy choices that governments will need to make. However, the returns and the benefits are clear from the presentation that the professor gave. So how do countries then decide to invest in AI and the requirements, the technology, the energy, the capabilities? All these are decisions that have to be made. And I think the points made about working together are very clear. And as a UN agency, one of the advantages that we have is the ability to bring other parties to the table and have the conversations, because certainly there are many conversations that have to take place. The other important aspect is defining AI readiness. How ready are our countries and our governments, given the challenges that we still face in the global south? However, AI provides an opportunity to fast track that development trajectory. We all don't have to go through 40 years of that growth that was seen in China, because now AI can make that possible in a much shorter time. Therefore, how do we make those choices? And where do we invest to get the best return for our people? The third important aspect is on the inclusion. How do we make sure that this technology does not leave people further behind, does not further enhance the digital divide and exclusion, given that we know in our places there are people who are still struggling to get access to energy and light up their homes at night or keep warm during the upcoming cold temperatures. I'm very sensitive to cold temperatures, so I have to use that. So there are many choices and many decisions to make, and we believe that the knowledge that this book brings is at the right time, and we want to embrace the knowledge and harness AI for our future. Now, we don't want AI and the fourth industrial revolution to happen to us and find us as bystanders and only consumers. We want us to create that revolution for ourselves so that it happens because of us. So I thank you for inviting UNDP, and we are embracing AI in our work and certainly in the conversations that have to happen. I am particularly interested in the next book because it talks about using AI for addressing the sustainable development goals, because that is really where we want to be by 2030. So the race is on, and therefore this technology will hopefully take us there. Thank you, and have a good evening.
Thank you very much. Brief and sweet and informative. Our next speaker is Professor Bapu Paul, the director of the Institute of Intelligent Systems at the University of Johannesburg. I have known him over the last 17 or so years. As head of Department of Electrical Engineering, and now as a director and a distinguished professor, I would say, in his area. So please welcome. Your remarks, 3, 4, 5 minutes.
Yeah. No, I am followed by a judge, so I will not take more than 5. No, good evening, everyone. colleagues, esteemed guests, and especially the students. I see a lot of students over here. So, Professor Mutambara, first of all, congratulations on your book. You were motivating us to write, and so people, those who are lazy to write, I can say that there is a voice to text, which is AI driven. So you don't need to write anymore, you can speak and it will be written. But again, there is a problem over there. You may need to go 7-8 months for training to US to speak like an American, because your voice will not be detected. And that is where the bias comes in. The hallucination of the AI product happens. So the AI, when you are saying something, AI starts hallucinating because it is not able to understand your accent or my accent, yeah, and it will write something else. And then you give it to the publisher and the publisher will not publish anything. Yeah, so here is the main problem, because that training was done on that text to voice, means voice to text. The training was done with the Caucasian voices. It was not done with these voices. Now, why will they do with African voices? If the market is not big enough, then no one will do it. English, the market is big. isiZulu, how much? What is the market size? So that is what needs to be understood very clearly. The market size is what is driving the innovations. Everything is driven because English is well accepted everywhere. So that is why whatever products you are seeing, if your mother or if your grandmother cannot speak English, she cannot use it. Because I don't know, many of you might have seen that we have often gone, when my mother broke her phone, I went to buy a similar phone. Because the new phone or a new model of phone, it is becoming difficult to use. Yeah, so these are certain things that needs to be kept in mind. Means I think, but everything is not bleak. Means it is not that everything is bleak and nothing is happening in Africa or South Africa. Because here I give you a few examples, and so one example will be very close to you. The first example in healthcare, in rural Limpopo, they are detecting diseases like diabetic retinopathy using simple retinal scans. Yeah. Then there are local startups like aerobotics, where they are monitoring the health of the farms, how much manure is needed. So these are local startups. And another government sector very close to your heart is SARS. SARS is using machine learning to find out any fraud in tax payments that is being done. Yeah, so now you don't need to go through everything step by step and find out who is paying tax and who is not paying. Or because you can see the pattern of a particular person or a group of clustered person and you can do it, and SARS can detect it very easily. Now, how do you do? Means, see, the need is for collaboration. Now, collaboration, when we talk about collaboration, 10 years back, 15 years back, collaboration, so much was not needed. Within your department, you collaborate with 2 students, 3 students, do a project, it is enough. Today, I know AI, but I don't know anything about health. If I want to develop a product on health, I cannot do. If I don't go to a hospital, collaborate with a student or a professor over there, and then we jointly come up with a product. So this is the environment that is needed. Yeah. So the collaboration no longer within your department, no longer within your faculty, but it is going beyond the faculty, beyond the university, outside also you need to collaborate. Now, there are more works done that are within the university also. For example, in our institute, we are doing work with isiZulu and Sesotho, mapping them for machine detection. then predictive maintenance, patient monitoring. Now the problem is, how will you take it to the market? That ecosystem is needed, which is missing in Africa, I think. It is easier to make a product and take it to the market in the US because that ecosystem is there. Today, you make a product, you will go from door to door. You will not be able to take it to the market in your own country. See, that ecosystem, that after a student has built a product, it is not the question of creativity, it is not the question, innovation is not there. Once the product is made, where will he go? So people always give ideas that the life of an entrepreneur is not easy. Everyone has to go through the hard path. But if the ecosystem is there, then it makes a little bit easy. Now, there are limitations in South Africa also. For example, data lakes, data centers, we need to have our own. Because data sovereignty is the most important thing. If we don't own our data, it is equivalent to not owning the minerals which is under the earth. If you are owning the land, the mineral under the earth is not mine. It is same as if the data is somewhere else, the data sovereignty, and data centers within the country or within the geographical boundary, it helps in other ways also. For example, it decreases the delay. So you are in control of the data, you are control of the delay also, because it is now near to you. Yeah, otherwise I will have to route the data. Once the CCOM cable is broken, I cannot route the data. I am down. WhatsApp in South Africa down for the whole 2 days. So these things should be looked into. And slowly, before I end, means maybe I have another 1 or 2 minutes. Before I end, because no, I have a judge following me. So before I end, I think slowly we are going towards general purpose AI. Because slowly, and if you look, ChatGPT was used specifically for generating some document, generating some kind of paragraphs and maybe summarizing documents. I saw a very beautiful usage of ChatGPT. So in Bangalore, in India, I saw the video and I liked it. There is a student who wants to go from place A to place B. He can speak English. The tuk-tuk driver can speak in the vernacular. Now the tuk-tuk driver is asking 500 rands. Now, what this guy did, he wants to negotiate. So he gave the negotiation portion to ChatGPT. He says that the input that he gave to ChatGPT is that I want to go from A to B. The driver is asking for 500 rands. I want to pay 150 rands or less than that. And the driver understands only vernacular. Can you please negotiate on my behalf and tell him that I am a student also? And then he holds the thing, and then they do negotiate, and then the student could do it for 120 rands. Yeah, ultimately the driver said that, okay, I will take you for 120 rands. I think the video is on YouTube. It came only a few days back. So that is why I am saying that we are slowly going into general purpose AI. That is the same system we'll be using in multiple ways, innovative ways. Yeah, but I think in South Africa and Africa also we are doing good. We have a lot more to do. So thank you.
Thank you, Professor Paul, and your interest in humor. And very useful inputs indeed. Thank you for your contribution. Our next response is from Judge Mfemetse Mawaki, formerly senior counsel, former advocate, Rhodes Scholar, and alumnus of Stanford University, Oxford University, and UCT. So you're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good evening. It is my pleasure to have been invited to another of Arthur's book launches. And like Kuseni, I've known Arthur for more than 30 years. He was my senior at Oxford. I was a microbiologist. He was a roboticist. But the thing about Arthur is that he defies categories. And I've always thought that that is one of his genius as a person. I see that formally at the university, he's the director of the Institute for the Future of Knowledge. And that seems quite proper because he is the complete person, he is a complete man. And I see that there are, you'll forgive me if I'm mistaken, but it appears that there are quite a number of youngish people here. I assume that the great majority of the congregation here are students at the university. I wish I had at your age in certain respects, the privilege of having a person like Arthur being associated with the institution. I very much hope that you will take great advantage of his presence. One of the remarks that he made in his presentation was that he would ask the question, what can you do? And he would not be interested in seeing a piece of paper that you might be quick to present to him. That is part, seems to me, of the challenge which universities in particular ought to pay attention to. I very much hope that those who are about to graduate from institutions of higher learning in particular will be making remarks similar to the following ones. This is what I'm going to do when I graduate, as opposed to I'm looking forward to getting a job. The premise to that statement being that someone will give you a job. So one would hope that on conclusion, especially of tertiary studies, the point of departure would be, this is what I'm going to do, not I hope that someone will do the following for me.
Good evening to the viewers.
This book, I have to confess, I haven't read the whole of it. But there is a particular part to the text concern where Arthur comments on AI and the law, and the court. And you'll correct me, Arthur, but it seems to me that that is the shortest chapter in the book, and that intrigued me for a number of reasons. And what struck me was that, of course, AI is a technological tool, fundamentally. It's a form of computation. And as a technological tool, it has to be applied in the real world. what the law does is to try to lay the groundwork or the frame of reference for what is to happen in this real world. So the observations that Arthur makes in the book, of which there are quite a number, are important because they call to mind what is it that the law could be expected to do in order to facilitate technology in general, and in this particular instance, artificial intelligence. And my sense is that AI is a form of technological innovation that actually goes across different disciplines, so it is not unipolar. One of the remarks that he makes in the book is he said that we are to employ AI as a driver of the law and justice systems, and he says as well that that the delivery of justice can be made more efficient, transparent, and accessible by leveraging AI. Used a number of examples there. He referenced AI chatbots and virtual legal assistants as tools that could be used to provide instant legal advice to those who do not have lawyers, and that automation could be used to draft legal documents such as contracts. But of course, one of the issues that intrigues me as a lawyer is that the law is a strange beast. It is not mechanical. It's about the peculiarities of being human. And the question is, what is the extent of computation that can be used in the application of the law? Arthur kindly, as part of his presentation as well, referenced there was Sophia, there was Optimus, and there was Waymo, the taxi, all of which are automated systems. Of course, part of the interest to me was, well, what does it mean when a person is in a driverless car which gets involved in an accident? You know, where does one look to? Does one look to the person who wrote the code? Does one look to the person who built the car as it is? What recourse will the person who was injured by a driverless car get? What recourse can that person get? Just briefly, what in this context, at least as part of South African law, where a person gets injured by or in connection with the driving of a car, if we were to claim against the Road Accident Fund, one of the allegations and evidence that you'll have to place before the court is that the driver was negligent. Now, being negligent in law means something quite specific. It suggests intentionality. It suggests agency. It suggests directionality, which is controlled by thought. What does all of that, how is all of that going to be addressed in relation to a driverless car? A car is a thing. At the moment in law, things cannot have intention, things cannot act. So the questions that are thrown up by Arthur in his remarks, to me, I think that his book is an offering of how technology and the practice of the law can profit from implementing technology generally and the efficiencies that will be there as a result of using AI. So Arthur, again, you have, as Kuseni remarked at the beginning, you have been steadfast since those days when we first met at Oxford. And one of the things that we've always said was we have to act, we have to be involved, and that there is a duty on all of us to be involved. And Arthur has been true to those sentiments. And I am you are going into book number 8. I haven't even gotten to the first one, but this invitations are a prompt, and I will say that I might not get to 8, but there will be at least 1 in the making. So Arthur, I wish to thank you for your contribution and for your being such a fantastic model to all of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The judge has spoken. I think he raises a lot of interesting issues. I was surprised that he was also a microbiologist, so now I see some challenges about automated vehicles and their prosecution cases. Thank you very much. Last but not last speaker, the best speaker, I suppose, the pastor, Andrew Mutambara, the senior pastor at Oasis Christian Assembly, will give us a sermon in 3 to 5 minutes about his response to the book. Thank you, Pastor.
Well, I thank the chair, Professor Mbo, for giving me the permission to preach the sermon, so I'll take advantage of it. No, don't worry, I won't preach a sermon. I'd like to thank Professor Arthur for giving me again a privilege and opportunity to participate in another one of his book launches, and it's really wonderful. We go back a long way from the time, believe it or not, when you were still in high school, and then went to university, went different high schools, went to university, and a very friendship has come through the years. And one of the things I would like to say is that I'm not a member of the Oxford Mafia, but I'm always glad to be reunited with them at the book launch. Especially Mr. Kuseni, and he was talking there, and he said, pastors want to always say, do as I say. Do as I say and do. Well, that's a reference to his pastors. I can't comment for that. But what I can say is, Professor Arthur made it very clear that the focus of his book is decolonization of artificial intelligence. And I'm thankful that I'm a pastor, and part of my focus is decolonization of faith. And it's important that we understand, and coming from an IT background myself as well, innovation is very important. It matters what you see. It matters what you hear. It matters what you
do,
understand. And it matters what you do. And Professor Arthur, for all time I've known him, and today is no exception, is very clear that he's a man of vision. what he sees is very important. We've got people that are not able to explain what they see. The Bible is very clear, it says, where there's no vision, the people perish. So people perish for lack of vision. And Professor Arthur brings it clearly and says, what do you see? If you look at this artificial intelligence, it's helping us to see. It's very important. What really is it? What really is it? What are you seeing? What are you hearing? It's important what you hear. A few years ago, when the COVID-19 challenge came through, and Professor dealt very nicely that we are consumers of knowledge and not producers of knowledge. When the COVID-19 came through, one of the things that came through from one of the famous scientists that I'm sure many of you know, Dr. Anthony Fauci of the United States of America, one of the things he told us was that social distancing will help to stop the spread of COVID, and we must start greeting each other with elbows. And then was in one of these congressional hearings, and he was asked, Dr. Fauci, what is the scientific evidence for social distancing? Is there on the internet? You can go and search for yourself immediately afterwards. It is shocking.
2019.
And he said, there's no scientific evidence. It just came up. It's there on the internet, on YouTube. It's there. The whole world consumed. We're supposed to be elbowing each other. But thank God, it was exposed. So people like Professor Arthur, they make us understand that here we are, Africa. The truth is we don't matter in other people's eyes. They're not interested in making us go forward. We need people that think outside the box. We need people that are innovative, that produce solutions. We need people, what problems are you solving? So this book here, very important, makes it very clear that even though we're in the global south, we are well able to take advantage of the artificial intelligence. There is an opportunity for us. There are opportunities for us. And I'm glad there are many young people that are here. Take advantage of opportunities and grow them. The time is over. Time is over to look for solutions from outside. It's over. There's so much deception that's around. So we need to understand that it matters what you see. It matters what you hear. It matters what you understand. It matters what you do. Execution is very important. But executing to do what? And Professor Arthur has made clear for us there's tremendous opportunities. Bible's clear says, the man thinketh so easy. Your thinking is very important. This book opens our thinking to the opportunities all around, in every sector, in every area. And my beloved friend that I met here in the book launches, Sabuseni, I'll just give you one verse that will make you laugh. Luke 19, verse 13, Bible classic. And this is Jesus talking, and he said, he's giving an example. He's calling 10 of his, he's talking about a certain man, certain leader, he was going somewhere, who called his king, he called his servants, 10 of his best servants, he called them. He was going to go somewhere and give them instruction. And this is what he says. Calling 10 of his own born servants, he gave them 10 minas and said to them, buy and sell with these while I go and then return. Jesus, this is an example of the Bible. Buy and sell. What is that? Trading. What is that? Go and do business. Well, I want different kind of pastor. That's why we are friends with Arthur. We think outside the box. Go and get a product. Go and buy and sell. It's for everybody, including Pastor Andrew. Hallelujah. We must buy and sell. We must trade. We must do business. Think different. Think outside the box. And thank God for AI and the teaching of Professor Arthur here. Our minds are open. And I'm looking forward to going through this book. And I'm looking forward to sharing things from there. Especially, like I said, I come from an IT background. I'm really looking forward to it. Our minds must be open. I like that picture when you showed us how all the lands fitted into Africa. We've got to know that we are big. We are very big. We've got to start thinking big. Thinking bigger than University of Johannesburg. Thinking bigger than Johannesburg. Thinking bigger than Africa. Thinking big. We've got to think big. The beautiful part is with artificial intelligence, from where we are, we can have impact. From where we are, Whatever challenge is there, we are well suited to sort it out. If deep sick R1 can come out with very little monies, wow, there's no obstacle for you. It's in the thinking, the medulla oblongata. Think differently. We've got to think differently. We've got to create jobs. I can tell you that in our own church, I'm a pastor who teaches technology big time. We have to do things with technology. We have to technology. We've got to solve problems. So, Professor Arthur, thank you so much, because from years I've known you have not changed. It is as far as innovation is concerned. Remember one time we met at the service station in the height of the COVID-19. So, Professor Arthur is always, we need to start engaging with so many things. And started engaging. So I started engaging, and I hope the UNDP and other donors will not get angry with me. Hallelujah, but we are here to debate. So we started talking. Somehow end up talking about vaccines. Then I said to Professor Arthur, is there in the Bible that in the last days, big pharma who deceive the world? They said, what? So I quoted the scripture from, so you can read it for yourself. Revelation 18, verse 23. King James Bible version. Are you ready for it? And then I'll sit down, and then the sermon is over. I like it. I want your attention. The book is about decolonization of artificial intelligence. So as I close on decolonization of faith, Revelation 18, verse 23, King James Bible, it says, and the light of a candle shall shine no more at all in thee, and the voice of the bridegroom and of the bride shall be heard no more at all in thee. For thy, are you listening? For thy merchants, okay? Were the great men of the earth, the merchants there, the Greek word original translation there refers to what? Big business. So it says the big business. Obviously not Mr. Kuseri, no. He's a nice one. He's a nice guy. But the big business, for thy merchants, were the great men of the earth. Great men of the earth. For by their sorceries were all nations deceived. They what? Sorceries. The Greek word translated sorceries there in the Bible is the Greek word pharmakia. From where you get pharmacy, from where you get big pharma, the big deceivers of the age. And here we are. Not all big pharma is good. A lot of deception on the rampage. We need more thinkers outside the box to provide solutions. Don't be deceived. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we enter the most exciting part of the evening. What I'll do is I'll ask Professor Mutambara to save time to facilitate the question and answer and address that before we have a closing ceremony.
Thank you very much. And I want to thank all of you for coming. We now want to discuss. So please be very brief in your remarks. Be very brief in your question. And then I'll also be very brief in my answers if I have to respond to what you've said. I'll take 3 at a time. And then answer, then another 3, then answer, then I also go to those online. So be very brief, please, in your questions or comments, so that I can also be brief. I'll take 3. Start with the ladies. Forget about these men.
All right, so my question that I wrote down for you, Professor Mutambara, is how